morning. Hello, people. Oh my God, I missed you. Is that too funny? I'm so serious. I totally missed my people. Like, I haven't done a video since less than 24 hours ago. Let me see about getting that a little bit better. So thank you for joining me. And if somebody wants to say something in the comments, just so I know you can hear me, that would be extremely helpful and appreciated. How's my hair? How's my makeup? Good morning from Boston. Morning, yeah. Thank you. I just want to curse over this freaking case and this damn autopsy, right? Oh, thanks. That's sweet. I can hear you and you look good. Looking lovely as always. You know, it's sad that I even care, and I try not to. Yesterday, I was in that hoodie and my cap, my ball cap, and, you know, it's a Sunday, so that's totally appropriate, right? But I try not to worry about how I look. I try not to worry about how I sound either. I mean, I'm just trying to deliver realness, and I love that you guys love that. And I just want to curse. I just want to freaking curse. Yes. East Coast time in Australia is 9:45 p.m. So yes, thank you for reminding me. It is almost 7:45 a.m. Here we are, the top of the day, Monday, October 17th, is it? Where did I put my phone? I think it's October 17th. I'm close enough. I know it's Monday, right? A couple of things I wanted to get on here first thing this morning to discuss are things that I've been thinking about over the weekend. And if you had a chance to watch the tape that I made Saturday, I had to do 2 in the morning because of the stupid sun. I shouldn't say stupid sun. The sun's awesome. But it was in my face and it was frustrating. And then I actually did one Saturday night too. So I'm just going to reiterate a few things real quick. I feel like this case is just cracking open. The entire 6 weeks prior to the autopsy results, I literally felt like the case hadn't started. And I had said that so many times. I don't know if I actually said that in any of my videotapes until it cracked open. And then I was kind of speaking to that. But, you know, it just felt like the brakes were on and everybody was holding their cards so tight to their chest. And I was kind of shocked that they let the autopsy out so early. But, you know, I did 2 videotapes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. What did I do? 4? Because I did 3 during the day. I did my 2, and then I read that affidavit again. And thank goodness I did, because that affidavit has had at least 8,000 hits the last time I checked. And it's so important to me that people see the framework, the setting that this is happening in, the corruption, the criminal activity, the bullshit, sheer fucking bullshit. Okay. So we have a 15-year-old girl whose name I still don't know. And I believe that it is fine to have it public record, even though she's a minor, because she's deceased. And she lived in Roseville. I believe this happened in Roseville, which I just looked up that information this morning. And Roseville is like the most populous area of Placer County. It is east of Sacramento. It's actually where Sierra College is. So it's not too far from Truckee. It's also not too far from Folsom Prison, where a lot of these people are probably going to end up, hopefully, if the corruption gets under control, right? So let's see. I'm going to just try to deliver some of this information and then read some of your comments. It's so true. If you have questions, then that's a clear sign something isn't right. Nothing seemed right to me from the minute I learned about this case. And I was looking through my phone records. The first screenshots I started taking of this case, I think, are August 11th. I don't remember the exact day that I heard about it, but my birthday is August 9th, and I'm pretty sure I heard about it before my birthday. And it really hit me hard because instantaneously, Kylie reminded me so much of myself and going to parties at that age and how dangerous it was. And thank God I had so many guardian angels and common sense and sheer luck that got me through all that. And, anytime anybody made me uncomfortable, I just bolted. I really did. I mean, there were plenty of parties that I just left because there were dudes making me uncomfortable. And, maybe that's what Mags did, maybe not. But there were so many red flags with this case. White kids don't go missing from white town high school graduation parties very often, not often at all. And there were just so many bizarre things, especially Sammy. She was bizarre right away. The way she took over, the way she wrote on her freaking leg. Mrs. Kelly says, I think Sammy Smith is 22. I don't know. She might be 18. I think that she was using her 23 or 24-year-old brother's age or birthday as a fake ID to buy alcohol. I think that that's how the confusion started with her age being different. I don't know. She might be in her 20s, but she also, I think she did just graduate high school. I think I've seen that videotape of the Truckee High School graduation. I know I saw her at Jagger's graduation chasing after him like a silly little girl. She certainly seemed like she was crushing on him when she chased after him with the flowers after he did his little graduation walk. Anyway, this Roseville girl that ended up dead on June 19th. And then Sammy's friend, Nate Kubikanya, who was 20 and had administered the 15-year-old Percocet that he intended to sell, I think at a party. If it was at a party, there's just way too many similarities here. A 15-year-old, a 16-year-old. So he was arrested basically 3 or 4 days after Kylie was reported missing. Had he been arrested before she was reported missing, perhaps she wouldn't have gone missing, is my point. So I think it's important to find out more details about the 15-year-old girl in Roseville. And if that is the case, if it has something to do with Nate Kubikanya's distribution of fentanyl-laced Percocet, that would put the Placer County Sheriff in the hot seat, because them dragging their feet to arrest him would be very likely attributed to Kylie's demise. So, of course, they'd want to hide that, and they'd want to pretend that there's not much correlation, if any, right? Like, oh, just coincidence. He just happened to be at the party that Kylie just happened to disappear from. So on Saturday morning, I spoke about how I had a dream that night about a shoe falling off of a girl that was in a scuffle. And specifically, she was kind of in like a bear hug from behind, like her arms were immobilized and she was kind of picked up, like the person was leaning back and her feet were kicking up and she was trying to kick away from this person. And the more I thought about it, I thought that's a pretty logical assumption that that could have been how her shoe came off. And that if that is how her shoe came off, that she wasn't thinking that this was going to be much of a big deal. If she thought that this was going to end in her death, she would have fought for her life and she probably would have kicked the shit out of these people. Not that she would have gotten away, but that they would have been a lot more bruised up than they were. So we've all seen Sammy with that ridiculous "Find Kylie" written down her leg, and it looks like she has all kinds of makeup on, bruises on her legs, on both legs. And and then sorry about the phone ringing. It's going to distract me. Let me just turn it off real quick. Hello? What's up? I don't know. Can you read mine? Okay. I'm in the middle of a videotape, sweetie pie. I love you. I'm sorry. Okay, bye. Too funny. Okay, that was one of my kids. I'm at work, and he couldn't find his bike to ride to school. So, real life, right? So, anyway, where was I with my little story about that dream of Kylie kicking away and Sammy's makeup covering her bruises? And you guys have probably all seen those photographs and videotapes. She's got a lot of bruising on her arm and bruising down her legs, and she's got that stupid writing on her legs. And, she's got some black moles too. I've spoken about the black marks on Mags's face that day, and Jagger had black marks on his face, and Sammy has black moles on her face. I don't know if for all three of them, I don't know if these are moles or acne or perhaps embers from a fire that flew right into their face, if they were maybe creating a fire to burn evidence of whatever happened that night. There's talk about a fire that happened right there by the lake. So I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just think that it's a good question to ask if potentially some of those black marks on all three of their faces are not moles or acne, perhaps. But they could all be moles and or acne. I don't know. Anyway, Sammy's bizarre behavior, to me, Mags had bizarre behavior too. I felt like she was a very compassionate and caring individual, and that she felt very conflicted, and she felt like she wasn't allowed to speak. And, it just seemed like Sammy was in control of everything, and so strange. How could you let an 18-year-old be in control of everything, even if they're not a suspect? But everybody at that party should have been treated as a suspect, right? Absolutely. In my humble opinion, everything I say is my opinion only, simply for the sake of conversation, open discussion, and hopefully education and entertainment. I was planning on doing one tape right now and then watching a few of the newer videos and then getting on later this afternoon the way I was doing last week. I kind of expect that this whole week will be like that because of the news coming out Thursday night and all the dissecting of the report. That, let me just say, I think that report is complete hogwash. All those measurements are so far off, and no, it can't be from dehydration in 2 weeks. It just can't be. I've been consulting with experts, and mind you, the real experts on these things are not going to be on YouTube. They're too busy being experts on these things with real life cases. There is a physician that speaks to the inconsistencies and the bizarreness of that report. And our 22 cents put her spiel in his video. So she has her own spiel. I can't think of her name right now. But our 22 cents, I think he did like an 8-minute video and 6 minutes of it might be her spiel. And she seems like she knows what she's talking about. Certainly people that I have been speaking with have been giving me information that's consistent with what she's saying and with what I'd been thinking all along. So one of my thoughts about that whole thing with the weights of the lungs and all the other organs being all rounded numbers, like 400 for the liver, 1,000 for the brain, 100 for the right lung, 110 for the left lung, all these round numbers. The heart was 90, I think. And hearts are more like 300 grams, okay? I didn't know the weights of any of these organs when I was first reading through this because it's not something I focus on and normally wouldn't have to, but these weights are so far off. It was bizarre. Um, it's just not possible, in my opinion, that her heart is 90 grams when a regular heart is like 3 or 400. It's my opinion that her left lung is not bigger than her right lung by 10 grams because our anatomy is that our right lung is always slightly bigger than the left one. It always weighs slightly more than the left one because of our heart. And I didn't notice that they had flipped them around. Thank goodness I was watching Zav Girls breaking down the report because she gets so specific. And I want to commend her for that and thank her for that because I literally had not noticed. I get my left and my right confused all the time. I'm completely dyslexic. So, maybe they got them confused. Oh my God. But the lungs are supposed to weigh 1,000 grams together, about 500 grams each. A lung of a tiny baby less than a year old is going to weigh about 100 grams. Even Candace Starr looked at Bella Watts's and Cece Watts's autopsy reports, and their lungs are both around 160, 180 grams, and they were 3 years old and 4 years old. And they probably didn't have anything in their lungs either because those poor little babies were probably dead when they got dumped into that 1,000 degrees scalding hot crude oil so heartlessly. Anyway, the report is my opinion that possibly the person writing it was like trying to send up an SOS, like, people, something's wrong here. Like, notice these huge mistakes. I can't really say anything, but I can write it like this, and my supervisors aren't going to notice because they don't know what these things are supposed to weigh either. And then it's going to get out there to the public, and you YouTubers will see it because you YouTubers just break stuff down and hyper focus. Just a theory, just a theory. But let me get back to the bruising on Sammy and the potential fight that she got in with Kylie. It all ties in together, right? I said in my tape yesterday about how Kylie's face being unrecognizable would be consistent potentially with her face getting smashed. They do go over in detail saying that, the bones are pretty intact. However, I still don't think that shoots down my theory. I think that Sammy was in a big fight with Kylie. Who was she referring to in her interview with Tony Dodge when she spoke of the fight that night and that there was no doubt who won that night? That there was no fighting about it. That often there's a fight over who won. It's all friendly fight. We don't hit the face and we're all nice. And if anybody gets hurt, we have people on them because, we're all experts. But she's so weird how she says, a lot of times there's fights over who won, but not that night. Not that night. Can I just do a Sammy? That little, we have to be appreciative that these people are so obvious and so impulsive and attention seeking that they put this stuff on YouTube. Because if it wasn't there, we wouldn't know, right? So, let me look at my notes here. There are a couple of things I wanted to say. I'm really excited to look at a new Speaks Van Holding 24/7 video that as I was starting my live, I saw he had just put up 11 minutes prior. I really like what he has to say. And Harsh also had just put up a video 12 minutes before I started. And I just wanted to get this going. Like I said, I missed you guys. I really did. I'm such a creature of routine and habit and structure. So for me, getting into this is like my new routine. And I really enjoy it. Thanks to you guys. You guys are the best. So The items that I wanted to address were the 15-year-old, um, and really, um, the inconsistencies in that report and the weights of, Kylie weighing 103 pounds. Literally, did they just guess? Did they just look at her and go, "Well, she's skinny"? I mean, a girl that's 5'5", 5'6", 5'7", if a girl that height weighed 103 pounds, she would look like a skeleton. I mean, Kylie was slender, but she had nice curves. It said in the information when she was missing that she was 118 pounds. Sometimes it would say 117 pounds. It always said she was 5'7", right? Every single time. And in that report, it says that she's 55 inches and that she's 56 inches. And those two numbers are not such a big deal that they're only 1 inch off from each other. But what is a big deal is that that's also 1 to 2 inches off from what all the other information has. And then the weight is 15 pounds off of all the other information. So why? Why are these huge discrepancies there? Is their freaking scale broken? Because that 1,000-pound, sorry, 1,000-gram brain, 400-gram liver, 90-gram heart, 50 and 70-gram kidneys, and 100 and 110-gram lungs, that's all wrong. Brains, if I'm remembering accurately, brains are more like 13 to 1,500 grams. Our kidneys are one of the heaviest organs. I want to say more like 600, but I didn't write that down, so don't quote me on that. The heart is definitely more like 300 to 400 because I looked that up just last night and I remember that one. Those lungs are super low. The lungs are usually 1,000 grams together. So about 500 grams each, but always, always, always the right one weighs more than the left. The way our anatomy is, the left one is smaller to make room for the heart. It's a fact. So the fact that they flipped the left one being 110 grams and the right one being 100 grams is really either that they're insanely incompetent and stupid, or that they're intentionally putting out this weird information to let people know that this whole thing is a sham. So I kind of wonder about that. And I do think the whole thing is a sham. And let me just address people in the two camps, because that kind of talk just bugs me. People that want to say it was an accident and people that want to say it was foul play. Okay, I have never wanted to say this was foul play. However, it has seemed as though it was foul play from the outset. There were just too many oddities going down right from day one. And the more information that comes out, the more confirmation I feel to say, obviously, it's foul play. And I have seen some other YouTubers waffle back and forth, and that's okay. We all have the right to change our mind. We're all taking in information and trying to make an assessment. However, I really wonder if some of these YouTubers might be threatened, getting paid off, both, or they just want to go with the status quo. Whatever it is that the authorities say, they'll buy into that because that's just how they are. And I'm not down with that. The truth is the truth. Like I said yesterday, the problem with the truth for liars is that the truth never changes. And you can hide the truth, but it will never go away and it'll never change. So eventually it's going to come out. Let's see. I know AWP is not going to come out with a new video. I knew they wouldn't as soon as they said they were going to believe it was an accident. And you know what? I will absolutely cancel my monthly subscription to help support them. And I would hope that a lot of people would as a boycott because, you know, I have no doubt that these are people with integrity. I also really question if they have been threatened, if they have been paid off, and nobody's gonna come out and say, "Yeah, I've been threatened." You can't, right? You just can't. Um, all this talk about the Nick roadside assistance guy, was he paid off? Was he a plant? You know, I was one of the first people, I think, that caught on to the rumor that he was a private investigator, and I immediately was like, "Oh, no, if he was a private investigator, then that changes everything." And then, a few hours later or a day later, I thought, if he's a private investigator, if he's got that license or certification in Nevada where he lives, Reno, and he works as a roadside assistance guy, and he was acting with integrity and doing his job and not trying to manipulate or lie, then it's really irrelevant that he has private eye training. If he wasn't being a mole or a spy or a criminal, um, it's immaterial whether he's got that certification and training or not, in my mind. My guess is that his story is true. If he were going to come up with a story to distract and dissuade, um, adventurers with purpose to go to Boca Lake to trick them, I would think his story would have been more solid. He would have had more specific, like, "I know it was this, and I know it was that, and I know it was this day." I don't think he would have had this bizarre story about the belt and, you know, just his vagueness of the date, or the day of the week, whether it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I could be mistaken, and, we're all human, none of us are immune from being incorrect about things, but I have always had trust in Nick's story, and maybe I'm a fool, right? This poor guy, I mean, I know his last name, I'm not gonna say it, because I already imagine that he has to be completely undercover. I mean, he's probably been threatened, he's probably been harassed. I mean, what a weird situation, and his girlfriend's a nurse, and, nurses are, some of the most noble professionals, again, in my opinion, um, and, I buy their story. I really think if it was just a story, it would have sounded better. It would have sounded more rehearsed. I mean, obviously, in the interview, they had already heard his story, and they were asking him specific questions to reiterate it for the camera, and they left 90% of it out. But, I understand people being afraid of stepping forward in the face of a corrupt, um, law enforcement. I definitely understand that. However, you're living in a fascist regime, period. It can't be like that. That's not how our constitutional rights are designed. So I'm going to read a few of your comments. Ashley B says, "The fact that Nick, the AAA guy, is also a PI is super suspicious to me, knowing how creepy and SF and other PIs are." I have worked with a couple of PIs, and yes, they are mostly super creepy, in my experience. However, there are very legit private investigators. Like, every law firm is gonna have their own private investigators, either that work in-house or that they routinely contract with. Um, we all know that Sammy Smith's parents, her mother's a lawyer, her dad's a private eye, and they own a private eye firm there in Truckee. And I looked it up. There are handfuls of private eye firms in the Tahoe area from what I saw, which didn't surprise me. You've got so much money there. When you've got that kind of money, you're going to have a lot of criminal activity. I mean, especially with the proximity from Reno and Sacramento, where you have very high crime, criminals are going to go to the places where the money is, which is why there are cameras on all the roads, all the intersections, so that when these big, beautiful estates that people are not always in, they're vacant, when they get robbed, they can go to their surveillance cameras. Obviously, people on the property are going to have those surveillance cameras. However, criminals are going to know how to shut those down. They're not going to be able to shut down the California ODT, what is it called? The Department of Transportation. I'm in Ohio, so it's ODT. But the California Department of Transportation is going to have all of these cameras at all of these intersections on all of these streets, highways, and roads to protect the interests of the community. So my question is, where is all the footage of Kylie on her last day? When somebody disappears or dies, you need to retrace the steps that they took, especially the last 24 hours of their lives, but even the days leading up to that. So why hasn't that been done in Kylie Rodney's case? You know, there's been some speculation about the texts that she sent out on that day, and that she was making creme brulee with Kate, and then she was hanging out with Mags, and then she went by the RV convenience store, and then she's gone. Okay, there's going to be a lot more footage of her and her vehicle driving around town and such. But back to the issue of private investigators. Some of them can be trusted, is my opinion. Most of them are complete scum, in my opinion. And, you know, if Nick is a seasoned PI and he was acting as a private investigator and he was paid to mess around in that case, those are criminal acts, and law enforcement needs to arrest somebody who was interfering with an investigation. AWP is part of that investigation, in my opinion. Ashley Waters said, I've never been able to figure out what caused Kylie to change her mind and go to the party. Anyone else? You know, I've wondered that too. I'm not so convinced that she did change her mind. I kind of think she was tricked into going to that party. That Sammy and Kate, or I'm sorry, Mags and Kate were instructed by Sammy to get her there. Kylie Alley says, Eiley was coaxed into party, probably Mags who left. Maybe she felt guilty. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of people who have been murdered at parties before. Like I've said, you know, that's more like gangsta type of stuff and more like inner city gang activity, where people get lured to a party with promises of things, sexual favors, drugs, other, you know, conveniences. So getting them lured to the party is a huge challenge to get them to a place where they're vulnerable. If you're trying to harm somebody, you need to get them to a place where they're vulnerable. You got to catch them off guard, right? I mean, if you don't catch them off guard, they're going to fight back, and who knows how that's going to go. If it's 1-to-1, right? But I don't think this was 1-to-1 at all. Where are there pictures of the party? Yeah, there are none. Kylie was lured to a gathering. Right. Dodging bullets. I agree. That's my opinion too, that she was lured to a gathering, not really a party. I mean, what kind of party is a setup to take somebody down like that? That's not a party. That's um, bullshit, right? Mags probably asked Kylie to take her to the gathering and then left. Right. And Mags is, to me, it's always been obvious that she feels extremely guilty. I think that Kate probably feels guilty too. Kate's with Kylie's ex-boyfriend, so that kind of cutthroat mentality of girls competing for a guy, she might not care that much. I mean, obviously she's living in Kylie's house, and I mean, how disgusting. How absolutely disgusting. I'm gonna read a few more of these and then I'm going to wrap it up. Let's see. I think the friendly fight was Sammy showing her who the alpha, as Kylie was a genius and threatening her role in the community. I completely agree. And a hot genius at that. Guys like thin women. They like blonde, long hair. I mean, Kylie was everything like the all-American dream hot chick, and cute with creativity and smarts too. I have a friend that lost her son. He went to a party, never walked out of it, and it was over a girl. I'm so sorry, Rhonda R. I know it's absolutely disgusting. Ashley B. I will research today as I've been working on the autopsy. I just have seen so much out there on channels I follow that just aren't true or barely have shades of truth. I know. I have tried to tune into some of those channels that have like the opinion of the other side, and I just can't do it. I mean, what a waste of time, in my opinion. We have no documentation where Kylie was the whole day Friday. Right, right. Um, absolutely. We don't really know what was going on with her Friday. Mom says that she was texting with her in the day, that she was heading to the gym and some other stuff. Maybe it wasn't Kylie that they found. Hazing gone wrong. These are all possibilities. Absolutely. The decomp made it too difficult to give accurate results, but yet no sign of SA. I know. And her 17 tattoo, I think Jagger might have done her tattoo. I'm not 100% sure on that. But we all know that her friends have said that that tattoo was on her ribs. And then in the autopsy, it says it was on her hips or hip. And maybe things slid down. I mean, that's so crude, I know. But yeah, the no sexual assault. Also, she had an IUD internally to prevent pregnancy. She also had a Diva cup for menstruating. So she was not pregnant. For a person that age to have an IUD is so bizarre to me. I mean, I'm all for healthy sexual activity, and you don't want your kids to get pregnant or get anybody pregnant. I mean, personally, I don't want mine to be sexually active, but in the event that they are, you want to set them up with the tools to prevent teen pregnancy. But an IUD at age 16, I've never heard of such a thing. To me, that's pretty awful. I mean, I'm not even a strong supporter of the pill because it messes with hormones, and teenagers have their hormones freaking out already. Things like a cervical cap or the other thing, the diaphragm. And of course, condoms, because you also want to prevent sexually transmitted diseases. And often it's good to double up on your birth control so that you're guaranteed virtually to not have to deal with a pregnancy. But yeah, the IUD proves that she had a medical physician. Okay. So again, the absence of, oh, well, we don't know who her physician is. We don't know who her dentist is. Okay. She had an IUD. She had a broken arm with plates put in. She had orthodontics. She had had braces. So we know that there's records of her medical history. They just didn't bother getting them. And let me just talk about the issue with custody real quick, and then I'll wrap up. And hop back on here in a little bit. Oh, so many issues. What was I gonna say? Oh my goodness. The whole case is so overwhelming. I seriously had a mental, like, blip. Um, maybe it'll come back to me. I'll read a couple more. Your comments are great. Dodging bullets. Yes, she was smarter, better, prettier than any of them. I agree. Thank you so much. Keep going this case, and Kylie needs this. I absolutely believe Kylie needs us for sure. Okay, so I remembered my thing that I was going to say about custody. The mom, okay? In California, I don't know how they roll. I mean, California is like its own nation, but in other states that I do know, like Florida and Ohio and Washington State, if a 16-year-old ends up dead and a custodial parent says, oh, well, I let her break all these laws and now she's dead, that parent's custody is going to be revoked by the state instantaneously. It doesn't matter that this person is deceased. The custodial parent is going to be removed legally as the custodial parent. Either the state will step in, Child Protective Services, or they will find another relative. It makes no sense that that is what happened with Kylie, that she ended up deceased and her mother had admitted to allowing her to drink, allowing her to drive after hours, and her mother is the only one listed on the death certificate. No, that is 100% not right. And I don't know the ins and outs of the laws with California these days, but that is 100% wrong. Dodging Bullets says Joanne Murdoch said about Kylie, not me, although I agree. I'm not sure if Joanne Murdoch might be that physician that I was speaking of that's in our 22 cents video. Mrs. Kelly says, Rhonda R., my son is 31 and he had a girlfriend that did that too. It was awful to watch, and I'm glad she's not around here anymore. Awful. I got it. I get it, hon. Mother was an enabler, Brenda says. That's a very good term. Absolutely. Codswallop said, you remembered. My brain's been working pretty good lately, but COVID kind of did a number, I think, on all of us to like remember names and words. Craziness. Phantasmic Ether says, Justice, I wish Dad and Grandpa would step in and take legal action. And they might be. I don't know. Dodging Bullet says AZ is getting tired. More coffee. I had coffee this morning. I don't think I'm tired, but I am going to wrap things up, say goodbye to you guys, and then come back on in a little bit. Isn't Kylie's grandfather Lindsay's dad? Yes. Well, he stayed with the biofather, not his daughter, Lindsay. Right. They're business partners, I think. The lodge used to be in Grandpa's name. And then I think currently it's in the biological father's name, I believe. Was it proven, in fact, that Kylie had insurance on her passing? We are enjoying your chat. Oh, thanks. Got my bucket of coffee brewing here. Bring it over. Was it proven that Kylie had insurance? I don't know if that's been proven, but I have heard as much as $500,000 and then double indemnity if it's an accident. And that accidental insurance or any insurance is only going to be paid out if there's no drugs or alcohol in her system, which there's a whole nother issue in the autopsy. Marijuana stays in your system possibly 3 months, 6 months. So it's hard to gauge to know if she had marijuana in her system currently on board. It doesn't seem like there was anything else on board that they tested for. I don't think they tested for fentanyl. The alcohol being 88 level is potentially all attributed to the alcohol that the body produces during decomposition. I think that the minimum number that the body produces with decomposition is 80. So if she had the minimum number, that little 8 could be that she had a drink of alcohol, but it doesn't sound like it to me. You just need coffee IV or coffee beer tap hat. Too funny. The remains in her stomach. Okay, stomach remains are great to use as evidence to figure out the time of death. So it said that she had pieces of beans and pieces of peas in her stomach and no liquid. So, no alcohol. But when did she eat the beans and the peas? I would doubt that they'd be serving beans and peas at the party if she if the story is as the kids have told it. She wouldn't have disappeared until what, 1 a.m., 12:30, somewhere in there. And what, it takes 3 hours maybe for the food to digest through your stomach. So did she eat peas and beans at 9 o'clock? Or did she eat dinner at home earlier and was already deceased by 9 o'clock? I think it's important to remember that we don't know that she was alive at the party ever. We don't know that she was at the gathering, period. We know that her phone was at the gathering, and we know that her vehicle was likely at the gathering. So on that, I'm going to read a couple more of these and then wrap up. Food in her stomach doesn't fit anyone's alibi. I like that, anonymous internet stranger. Dodging Bullet says, not if the insurance company is owned by the cult. Joanne Murdoch. That's a good one. Yeah, I got to check out this Joanne Murdoch. Phantasmic Ether. I wish she didn't even make it to that evening. Right, but she might not have. She might have already been, poisoned or beat up or, whatever. Something happened midday, maybe. I agree. Oh my God, great point about the food, because it's been told that way. Joanne Murdoch, that is what I keep saying. Insurance just doesn't pay out. But at this point, if 90% were negative, if they were really advised to test that at all. So if there's no substances on board and they have the insurance and they get paid the double indemnity, and then because the car was involved, car insurance would probably pay out too, whatever the death maximum is. And then, as I've mentioned before, and I don't know if you guys have caught this, but I have a very strong suspicion that the family could sue the park, Prosser Creek National Park, for the death, if it is looking like it was an accident of the car going into the water. That they could say that the roads were not designed properly or safely, or they weren't managed properly or safely, and that Sammy's parents, whose company, it's important to remember, their private eye company survives probably solely on contracts with the national park system. I can't say that for sure, that it's solely, but it looks that way. So I would imagine that the national park system has a lot of money and that they pay out, settlement agreements where people are not allowed to talk about the case when somebody dies on their property. Like, I don't know, Gabby Petito. I don't know. I'm not saying that I do know. I'm just saying that it's a question that I've brought up, that potentially Sammy went running to Kylie's mom and said, "Oh crap, I got to confess to you what happened. My parents will make sure that you cash in with millions of dollars. Please, please, please don't work with law enforcement to prosecute me. Let's just pretend it's a huge accident." I have suspected that that is a possibility. So again, that's my opinion. That's sheer speculation. I'm going to wrap it up here. I so much appreciate you guys. You are the best. Karma never forgets. Karma's a bitch, man. She's got our number. We got to watch out. With his weird posts lately, I've been wondering if Jagger is a Brian Laundrie. Absolutely. And a Chris Watts. yuck. The 3 tow truck guys use the place all year round. Yeah, I've heard something about that. Did you know that the lab did Kylie's toxicology in the same one on the Watts case? Oh my God, I did not. And I don't know if that's a big deal or not. Like, how many labs are there like that? But it's interesting, isn't it? Oh, it just makes you shudder. Again, this case is not only about Kylie, it's about public safety. If Kylie is going to just get wiped off the face of the earth and there's not going to be any consequences, it will happen again and again and again until these people are stopped. When people commit murder, it makes them feel all powerful, like God, and like they can get away with anything. And they will do all kinds of crazy shit before they get caught, in most cases. I unsubbed to AWP, Dana McCoy. Good for you. I'm totally unsubbing to them. They can just, they're free to do whatever they want to do, whatever they need to do, but I'm not going to give them my money if they're not going to push this case forward, because they have the power to do that. And unfortunately, without them, in my opinion, without them, without Ryan Upchurch, this case wouldn't have even gotten this far. So I'm very grateful for what they did. I'm very grateful for what Ryan Upchurch did, but I wish that they would be involved some more. I know Upchurch is very controversial and that upsets some people. You're allowed your opinion. You're allowed to have a differing opinion to mine on my channel, of course, so long as you're polite, just moderately polite. It's so important to me that we all respect each other and that we all allow ourselves to make mistakes at times and be forgiving towards ourselves and towards others when we make mistakes. Another unsubbed. Good. Yeah, I'm totally unsubbing to AWP. And if a whole bunch of people do that, maybe, how money talks, maybe they'll get the message. So everybody, drink your water, eat your protein, eat your veggies, eat your fruit, stretch, do your exercise, take care of yourself, put your feet up, give yourself a break, allow yourself to be imperfect, and just embrace those around you. Be grateful for every day, right? Unfortunately, we never know. Things happen. And even when you make all the right choices, don't drink the Kool-Aid, Dodging Bullet says. Yes, drink your buckets of coffee. I try to just drink one small bucket. OD at party, stored in car for days, dehydrated, causing low weights. I don't think the dehydration would be so severe, though. I think that type of dehydration, weight numbers of internal organs is like mummification style, like way more than 2 weeks, way more. But yeah, we can all look into it and learn more and get back on here later in the day. So thanks so much. You guys have a great day, and I will see you in a little bit. Thanks again.